We started a conversation yesterday concerning who you allow to counsel you, to advise you, and we painted a scenario. And we said that today we would continue and possibly conclude this presentation. So before I go ahead, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Christy. I welcome you to my channel and I thank you for spending time with me. So, the first thing I want to do is to define or try to describe who a counselor is, who an advisor is. And in doing that, I went to search Google, and there were so many definitions, descriptions of who a counselor is. I kind of fell in love with this particular one, and it says that a counselor is a professional who provides guidance, support, and assistance to individuals facing personal, emotional, behavioral challenges. They are trained, that is, the counselors are trained to help people understand their problems, develop coping mechanisms, and make positive changes to their lives. They offer counselors, they give advice to people for their problems. Like I said, there were so many definitions, so many descriptions of who a counselor is. I just fell in love with this one and I think it's so illuminating. And then I googled who an advisor is, and it simply stated that an advisor is someone who gives advice. Simple. I like to go ahead to say that human beings, we are always seeking for solution, answers to issues of life. Stuff happens all the time. We're in one thing or the other, we're seeking for solution. So this profession, counseling or advising, is a very busy one, very busy, because every second of the day, we are human beings are looking for solution, we're looking for answers, and this is where counseling and advising, this is where they come in. So like I said, it's a very busy one, busy profession, busy calling. And that's why we have to be extremely careful, because all and sundry have hijacked this profession. We have trained counselors, we have mischievous ones. Those mischievous ones, they see it as an opportunity to manipulate, to control, and to just do all manner of diverse terrible things to the unsuspecting person, either seeking counsel from them or they place it on themselves to counsel such fellows. And then we have random counselors. They may not have an insight, they may not even have a clue to what is happening, and they will just go ahead and counsel. While some actually do have insight and they give the right counsel. It is dangerous to allow your life to hang on chance, a matter of luck. If you cannot access a trained counselor at that point in time, some may need very urgent attention. Some situations, some stops may need urgent attention. You cannot access a trained counselor readily. or it may be because of cash constraints, because to access a trained counselor could actually cost money. Be careful not to surrender yourself to a mischievous counselor or a random one who does not have an insight to what is going on, what is happening, thereby giving all kinds of misguided counsel. Ones that they may leave you worse off. So the onus is actually on you. The moment you discover that this is not adding value, like I said before, please quickly excuse yourself. Whether you're in a vulnerable state or not, gather yourself together, find yourself quickly, don't get lost in it, and excuse yourself immediately and discard whatever junk they might have inputted into you. Don't carry them along so that you are not left worse off. Of course, there are so many categories of counselors. I just decided to limit myself to these three: the trained counselor, the mischievous ones, and then the random ones. Of course, there are so many charlatan, all kinds of. Because, like I said, everyone needs to be counseled at one point or the other. Indeed, every minute, every second of the day, counseling is going on. And then for the advisor, like I said, when I googled it just said an advisor is someone who gives advice. This is even more loosely put together. It doesn't suggest any kind of training. Therefore, you need to be very, very much at alert when somebody is offering you advice. Be careful which one you adopt, which one you discard, so you don't put yourself at risk unnecessarily. So, having said that, we are going to be drawing lessons out of the scenario we painted yesterday. We spoke about Dupe discussing certain things with Joy, and Joy gave a very, very wrong, inaccurate reaction, outburst, and all. I'm going to be starting with Dupe, but they're going to be, as they come up, I'll talk about them. Dupe first. Dupe, for me, is just like a regular human being. Whatever it is, from what we said yesterday, we said Joy was readily available. But I want to say that Dupe was careful to choose Joy. I'm sure she must have seen some other people around, or, she deliberately picked on Joy to open up herself, a bit of her life to her, because she must have seen some qualities, some charisma, some level of decency before she could expose herself to her like that. Talking about her family, that's very intimate. So it wasn't just a random pick. Joy wasn't just a random pick. However, Dupe was quick to recognize that her judgment of Joy was wrong. Her expectation of how Joy would respond was far below threshold. She didn't resign herself to that fate. She didn't become despondent. She quickly picked up herself and she ended the conversation, trying not to make it degenerate into a fight or a rift. But a few days after, When Joy continued in her immature way of handling things, Dupe had to confront her frontally and her action frontally, not minding whether it was going to degenerate into a fight at that point, because she was looking out for herself. She was looking out for herself, so she didn't mind whether it was going to degenerate into a rift or a fight. She needed to just take hold of herself and wrestle herself out of the hands of Joy. And she did that beautifully well. Honestly, I like the way Dupe handled the matter from the beginning up until the time she took it off Joy completely. That's good. Don't say because your judgment about somebody's ability to help you go through issues, to give you counsel, advice, failed. Because of that, you now resign yourself to that fate. You get lost in it, and then allow them to walk over you and say all manner of unnecessary things. She took hold of the situation and took back her life and moved on. Like I said, it's really very nice, very good. Dupa saw Joy as a friend, yes, and she saw her as a matured person, somebody with insight, somebody level of intelligence and intellect who could handle and manage the issue she presented to her, at least reasonably well. But she failed. Joy failed woefully. And then she had to retract. Joy had to retract and take back her life. Good. Very nice. Joy, on her own part, must have paraded herself. Well, maybe she didn't. But she must have seen herself as somebody who could chastise Dupe. She saw herself as somebody who is a mentor or somebody who is more than just a friend, a mentor. Well, let me just put it like that. I could lord it on Dupe. I could chastise her and maybe control her. And that's why she was able to say all those things in my home, in my own family, how I was brought up. You mean you have to, all those controlling words, So she must have seen herself more than just a friend, as a mentor, as somebody who could chastise, like I said. And then for me, Joy is immature. She doesn't have a sophisticated mind. If she actually wants to be a counselor, I think she should go and spend quality time and money to get trained and become a professional so that unsuspecting people who really don't know, who see her on face value as somebody who is mature and all that, will not get into her web and then be misled, especially if they cannot take back their life the way Dupe did. So they will not be worse off and she will not do disservice to their lives. Because looking at the description of who a counselor is, the counselor, whatever, in all the doings, the sessions and all that, is supposed to provide changes, positive changes to the lives of those they counsel. And that is why a trained counselor, usually you have sessions with them. They need to go back and research. They need to go back and look at books, look at notes, and discuss with even colleagues so that they can get on top of the matter and give that person the help, the assistance, the support that they require, not just something like that. So that's why they're professionals. But like I said, there's some constraints, you may need immediate attention, immediate answer, immediate solution, and things. And that's why people find themselves with the likes of Joy and all. So, Joy, my own advice to her is to get trained and she needs to work on herself. She sounds arrogant. Yes, I think she's an arrogant person because all those words. If Dupe saw her as a friend, I'm sure they must be within the same age bracket. You don't talk to your peers that way in a commanding, domineering manner. So I think Joy is arrogant. She's not really matured. She's not really sophisticated, her mind, and she lacks wit. So she needs to work on herself. That's the long and short of what I'm saying here. She needs to work on herself, her behavior, the way she responds to people, her disposition, how she interacts. Because having been trained, she needs if she doesn't have the right disposition, she may still do disservice to people. So she needs to work on herself and adjust where necessary. So that is my take on all of this. So please, while we are getting counsels and advice, remember, nobody knows it all. You cannot have answers to every situation, to every circumstance. It's not possible. It is not possible. You may be good at some area, and in some area you may not be good. You may be average, even below average. So when you're confronted with assignments or counseling where you're not really good, where you are below average or you don't have insight into, please be careful and don't be arrogant. You may not say it frontally that I don't have an answer because somebody who has come to you needs some kind of succor at that point in time. What you can do is empathize with that person. You can empathize with that person. You can say encouraging words to that person. At least that will create the first aid, if you like, for that person. The person will not go back hurting, wounded, injured, as the fellow had come to you. The fellow will go back at least with some kind of so-called comfort, at least. And then the fellow can now go back and look for who would really prefer give that solution, that answer that the fellow is looking for. And it may surprise you that fellows who don't even carry titles of counselor, advisor, sometimes they just give the insight that life has been waiting for all along. They just provide it effortlessly, just like that. And that's why I always say that open up your mind, don't close it. You never know where this solution, this answer you're seeking for may come from. At the same time, please be very, very careful to discard whatever it is that will add heaviness to your chest, that will add burden to your chest, to your head. Discard them immediately and carefully withdraw and excuse yourself from that exercise, from that talk. I hope I've been able to make some meaning out of this. Thank you very, very much for listening to me. I hope to continue, if need be, on this topic, this conversation, because it doesn't really come to an end. It goes on and on. But for now, I like to end this video, and I hope to see you very soon. Thank you so much for spending time with me. Please remember, subscribe to my channel, like, share my videos. Bye.